Hi everyone, welcome to Loving Guidance. Mama Marina here. For those of you returning, welcome. And for those of you who are new, join the party. Welcome aboard. And today's topic is on health and specifically having to do with oxygen. So this corona situation has definitely put a spotlight on the importance of our lungs and of breathing and oxygenating our body and how dependent we actually are on breathing properly and being able to oxygenate our body properly. And whether we like it or not, we are dependent on oxygen. The green plants, phytoplankton, cyanobacteria, the trees, the grass, the bushes outside, they all provide the oxygen that we are dependent on. We don't like being dependent on a lot of stuff, like to think of ourselves as independent, but that is definitely one of our dependents. We are dependent on oxygen being there for us to catch that next breath, being there for us to live. And I consider oxygen to be the glue that binds the body and the soul together. Your life living energy is connected via oxygen to your body. And so when somebody's passing away, we say, oh, their breathing has changed. It's gotten much more shallow. It's not deep and hearty and rich anymore. It's more shallow. It's slower until they take their last breath. And usually when they take their last breath, that's the departure. The life energy departs from the physical being. And so oxygen's our glue. We need it. We need it. And it feels good to take deep breaths when we're stressed, when we're anxious. We need to take that deep breath. You see that in a lot of meditation and yoga exercises or practices rather. They incorporate the breath. They're alternating the nostrils. Why? Because when you breathe in one nostril, and the body does it naturally, you're breathing in air on one nostril, the other one's kind of plugged up, or you're purposely plugging it, and you're getting that oxygen to fully oxygenate one side of you. And then the body will switch. All of a sudden, the other nostril seems to be plugged up and the other one's open, and now you're oxygenating that other side fully. And so the body does it naturally. It'll focus which side it wants to get fully oxygenated. When both nostrils are open, it's a balance, and that's the ideal. We want to be balanced, and we're getting all the oxygen we can via our lungs. That's the air. So Mother Nature has given us four main elements. We have air, water, we have fire, and we have earth. And so via oxygenating the body via air is our breathing. It's breathing through the nose, preferably not through the mouth unless we absolutely have to, if our nose is plugged up and we can't. But when we breathe through the nose, we're producing nitric oxide. We're really getting that oxygen in. Whole belly breathing, where you are getting almost like a Santa belly, right? You're getting that belly big and full of oxygen. Your chest expands. You're welcoming in life, right? And when we're guarded and we're like stressed out, we're taking shallow breaths. We're real more breaths, but not as deep and rich, right? So we're just breathing faster. We're getting into fight and flight mode, ready to run. And so it's important that that's one of the ways that we breathe, air in through our nose and richly, allowing that chest to expand, allowing our belly, our diaphragm to fully allow as much oxygen in to connect that body and our living energy. And then number two is water. So when you drink a glass of water, preferably alkaline water, you are getting H2O, so two hydrogens to one oxygen. That oxygen, you are oxygenating the body in liquid form. So our body is roughly 70% water and 30% matter or solid. And so that 70%, that's the vast majority of our physical being is water. And so we want to make sure that we are replenishing and rehydrating and replacing any water that we've lost through our breath, through sweating. And that's 70% of us. That's the majority, the vast majority of us. So we want to get that oxygen in the form of H2O into ourselves in the form of water. And then the third is fire. So fire, the third natural element, fire. So when we heat our body in a warm shower, in a sauna, in a steam room, we are opening those blood vessels, and those blood vessels are circulating the blood that is rich in oxygen. And so it's circulating it and getting all the tissues oxygenated, fully just fully oxygenated to get into the little crevices and all of the little blood vessels and all of those. So that's one thing that we absolutely need, is to heat our body to allow for, whether you're in a electric blanket, however you need to heat your body to get that beautiful circulation, that oxygen rich blood pumping and flowing. Where there's oxygen, you're going to have life. So if you want to heal parts of yourself, make sure you're oxygenating them. And one way to do that is to get that blood flow to those areas. And so the other, with regard to fire, you have the opposite, cold. And so you have a lot of cold therapy, and the cold shrinks those blood vessels and allows for inflammation to calm down. So if you have swelling, you want to calm that space down, and not necessarily deplete it of oxygen, but you're definitely trying to get it to calm down and not be in protection mode. So inflammation is protection. We got to fight off bad guys. What's going on here? And so you're trying to calm it, and you do that by closing those blood vessels. You're basically telling the system, hey, slow down. You don't have to be on fight or flight mode right now. Just let's cool out for a little bit and calm down. And so you are, in essence, slowing down the oxygenation in those areas, but it's necessary to bring down that inflammation, to get your body off, attack mode, and just soothe it a bit. And so that's the fire piece, the hot and the cold, in terms of oxygenating the body, the physical form. And then finally, earth. So earth, everyone's like, how do you oxygenate via the earth? Well, you eat greens. So like I had mentioned before, we're dependent on plants. We're dependent on algae and the trees and the bushes and cyanobacteria and phytoplankton, all of the oxygen producing beings, if you will, on this planet that have contributed enough oxygen that allows us and grants us to take that next breath, to have oxygen in the environment for us to breathe. We're dependent on them. And so I'm grateful to them that they've produced this oxygen and that they've allowed this oxygen rich atmosphere and environment for us to live in and to thrive in. And so with that, because they produce oxygen, that is one of their outputs, they're rich in it, they make it. They have chlorophyll, they're rich in oxygen. And so when we eat them, when we consume these plants, whether it's spinach, kale, anything green, if it has green, it's going to have chlorophyll, it's going to have oxygen as part of its makeup. And now we're taking in the solid. So remember how I said it was 70% of our body is liquid and roughly 30% is matter or solid. That 30% also needs to be oxygenated, and that 30%, how we can oxygenate it, one of the ways is via the food that we eat. And so eating lots of greens, as many greens as possible, is the way. So you hear that people tell you that, eat your veggies, eat your fruits, they're good for you. And even though they might be not so glamorous, not so delightful to our taste buds, when we're eating a bowl of kale versus, let's say, a strawberry cheesecake. I mean, we kind of shun and shy away from the bowl of kale. Why? Because it's not very tasty. But we need to realize that the minute it gets down our throat, we have to get it past this. It's like the bouncer at the club. Our mouth is like the bouncer at the club, right? It only wants to let in the fly people, and it we have to get, I guess, the nerdy kale in, because once it's in, it's going to do magic to our body. It's going to absolutely do magic and nourish our body, oxygenate our body. It's so important to just get beyond this bouncer at the club, this mouth, right? And so although the cheesecake is delightful and it just, it sets off the disco balls and the boom, 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 boom music in the club, and we're just like, yeah. The minute it gets in, it's like a club destroyer. The minute it gets into the body, it's wreaking havoc. Not only is it adding weight gain, adding sugars, messing with our insulin levels, it's just creating an environment that is not conducive to health. So yeah, it's tasty, and the bouncer's like, yeah, okay, you look good, all right, come on in. But bad. It's bad. The minute it gets down our throat, it is creating madness in our body. So choose the kale. It's not exciting. It's not sexy. But as soon as it gets into the club, it's not going to destroy it. It's going to do what it needs to do to keep the club bouncing in a happy, delightful, joyous, harmonious way. Whereas the strawberry cheesecake, well, that's a troublemaker. The minute it gets down your throat, it's going to probably cause some problems inside, whether it's inflammation, whether it's spikes in blood sugar levels, whatever it might be. So maybe some farting because it has dairy, whatever it is. It's not too good the minute it crosses that throat threshold, that line there. So oxygenating the solid, the 30% solid portion of your physical being via eating your greens. And it can be a green apple, it can be kiwi, it can be obviously kale, spinach, all of the salads, green beans, Brussels sprouts. You know all the green foods that are out there. You're oxygenating. It's one of the ways that you oxygenate the body. So remember, the 4 elements of oxygenating, fully oxygenating the body. You got water. You want to make sure that you drink enough H2O. Breathing, big belly, rich breaths. And then, of course, fire. Make sure that both, you need both, the hot and the cold. So take a cold shower, start with the hot, getting that blood flow in the morning, getting that good circulation going, and then end your shower on the cold note so that it also helps to cool your system and tame it and tell it, hey, you're not in fight or flight mode. You don't need to attack anything. You're okay. And so there's the fire piece. And finally, earth. Make sure you're eating your greens. You're eating as much of that as possible. The fiber in that is good for your gut. That's a different subject, and we will discuss that at another time. But right now, it's all about oxygen. And then lastly, what I want to talk about of oxygen is the fact that oxygen, a well oxygenated body, not only does it bind your physical being to your living energy, your life, your soul, but it also helps to ward off bad guys. So right now we're in a time where viruses are in the spotlight. And so you have viruses, you have bacteria, you have fungi, you have parasites, all of those bad, I call them health villains to our physical being. Those health villains don't like a well oxygenated body. Oxygen acts as almost like a cleanser, and it just detoxes. It's like a cleanser to get them out, and it detours them. They basically are like, I don't think so. I don't want, if I have to choose the low oxygenated body to the fully oxygenated body, I'm going to go with the low oxygenation. Why? Because that's a environment that's more conducive to those health villains. So that's what they're thinking. They're like, hey, I'll go with that body there because I have a higher probability of living, surviving, and thriving in a low oxygenated body. So that's the piece. Make sure you're taking those big belly breaths. You're taking in that water. Don't add stuff to it if you can't, if you can avoid it. Drink just plain H2O, plain H2O. No sugars, no salts, no electrolyte, no this and that, powdered this and that. Don't, just pure H2O. Love yourself enough to contribute back to what you really are, 70% water. And then of course your greens and that good circulation. Exercise will do it too. I mean, that's why the doctor is always telling you hydrate really well and exercise gets that oxygen, that blood flow going, and that blood flow means circulation of oxygen all throughout your body to detour the bad guys, to sweat out toxins through your pores. You're getting them out, to help get that gut moving, to push them out via the feces, to get even your kidneys and your bladder going, and keep them strong so that they can also flush in liquid form via our urine. So definitely oxygenate, definitely get that body moving and doing what it needs to do so that you can keep living. The whole goal is to live. We don't need to check out early. Humans are supposed to live up to about 120 years of age. We've been conditioned to think otherwise, but in order to make it to 120 years of age, we have to keep our body, our home, like our physical home, and our life energy as glued together and as friendly and married to one another for as long as possible. So in order to do that, oxygen is one of your best friends. So make sure you take those deep breaths and exercise. Okay, my loves, this is Mama Marina offering you a little bit of loving guidance with regard to health and keeping yourself healthy, and hopefully keeping yourself real connected to yourself, really literally connected to yourself on a physical and on an energetic level. That glue that binds, oxygen. Okay, thank you to all the trees and the greenery out there for giving us oxygen, and thank you to each of you for breathing and holding on tight and persevering through this life. All right, love you all, and many health blessings on all of you guys. Mwah.